So in 3 weeks ago, we celebrated our 3-year special event. It's like State of the Union event for us. We celebrated 3 years since the birth of DeepPavlov library. And we had about 10 talks or something like that given by our partners, our colleagues, and our users and our team. And well, we still plan to have something like State of the Union, but in English. For the time being, we decided to bring one of the talks, one of the keynote talks for this community call. This will give you a high-level perspective what we are working on at DeepPavlov and what's important for us, what's important for our users, and it will give you a better understanding how your contributions on Google Summer of Code could fit into a bigger scheme of things. And a second part of today's conversation is going to be a high-level perspective of what Google Summer of Code is, and then we'll be happy to answer your questions regarding Google Summer of Code, your pre-proposals, proposals, and other questions that you might have. So with that, let's start. And I'll start it with one of the keynote talks, the talk I have given last time. And let me do the following. Mouse sharing, and let me do it. Beginning. Zoom sharing, and I don't know, but maybe Sergey, I will turn you into co-host, and I will turn our Mikhail Bortov also into co-host. So I will ask you to bring other people, to admit people as the event will unfold, because I will be focusing on my talk and won't be able to bring more people aboard on my own. Okay?
Okay.
So, thanks. Okay, so my name is Daniel Kornev, as I said, I'm CPO at DeepPavlov.ai, and today I will share the keynote talk I've given at our 3-year celebration that happened 3 weeks ago. I'll tell you about our path from Alexa Prime 3 social bot to the multi-skill AI assistant platform. And the first question is why we're here at this community call. And besides your passion for Google Summer of Code, which is a great opportunity for students to build open source code, we're here because of AI assistants and chatbots. But in practice, we're not really about that. We're here because our goal as humanity is to be happy, and our happiness is coming from our ability to make our wishes real. Systems we have built don't just help people to have pizza. Systems we have built are systems that help people to be clearly understood what they want, like getting pizza or getting a taxi or something like that, and quickly get that. So in general, we're here because we help people to get systems that understand them and help them to make their dreams true. And the challenge we have is to minimize time needed to understand what exactly people need. As Sir Arthur Clarke, one of the famous science fiction writers of the last century, said, magic is just sufficiently developed technology. So that's why we're here. We're here and we build AI systems because their potential is to help people to get what they want based on what they ask the system to do. That's what we do. We build the magic of the 21st century. However, this is a very, very ambitious goal because modern AI systems are rather weak. This is what we say, and that's what Norman Nielsen Group says. And this is rather sad. Let's figure out why AI systems of today are so weak. Any modern voice assistant today is a very sophisticated system. It can recognize speech, it can understand what people say, it can interpret them, and then it can execute the command and then provide a voice output saying that the command has been understood and executed. The good news are ASR is doing really great progress these days, and ability, for example, to run ASR in a mobile phone and taking like the half of a gig of RAM to have a really great ASR is fascinating, but it's not limited to English language. As long as you are a native speaker in English, it's fine. If you are coming from any other country, you have an accent, and then ASR will go to way worse quality. And then we have a problem with automation. And while there is some progress there, it's also a long path to success. But the biggest problem is our ability to understand and interpret what people say. It's a holy grail of NLP to have this human-like comprehension of text and languages. And in DeepPavlov, we're one of the few top R&D labs across the world that decided to go all into this crusade. Our goal is to reach computers to understand human language as people do. And to achieve this goal, we need to have a plan in the form of milestones. These milestones include, in addition to basic research, organizational participation of challenges and competitions, because each of them has make people to put all of the stakes into driving the future of the technology. We've set this goal for ourselves a few years ago, in 2017, and we decided that if we want to move forward, we have to win in them. One of the best such competitions today is one of the famous university competitions, Alexa Prize, organized by Amazon, and this year we are participating in it for the second time. The challenge of this competition is to create a social bot that can engage in a fun and high-quality conversation on popular societal topics for 20 minutes and achieve an average rating of at least 4 points out of 5. And every year, hundreds of different university teams across the world are applying for this competition, and only 9 to 10 teams are accepted. We've been really happy, and we feel a lot of gratitude for being chosen a second time to participate in this competition. And just to give you a perspective, last year competition winners managed to achieve 3.8 out of 5 rating, which is really good. But they managed to support a conversation for like 7 minutes and 30 seconds, so it's really far from the ambitious goals of the challenge. So you can see this is a really hard problem. And this is that really drives us, and actually also drives us mad, but that's a different story. So what the social bot thing is? Social bot is something that works inside Alexa, and it is implemented as a skill. Amazon provides each team with a special framework designed specifically for building social bots. While we didn't reach grand finale of the last Alexa Prize, we've achieved the 6th place. And prior to that, we knew that our main goal is not just to win the competition, but to make our social bot a foundation for an open source multi-skill AI assistant platform. That's why we, unlike all other teams, decided to use our very own conversational AI orchestrator called DeepPavlov Agent as a foundation for our social bot. For it, we've built about 30 different skills and 10 of annotators, and then combined them in a coherent system, not alike from modern AI assistants like Google Assistant and Amazon Alexa itself. Now, when you look at chatbot markets or conversational AI market in general, or you look at the verticals like virtual concierge market, you see that all of them tell us that these AI assistants are and will be in high demand. And that's why right after Alexa 3 semifinals, we reorganized our entire organization to transform our social bot into an open source multi-skill AI assistant platform that anyone can use. In the few short months, we've removed dependencies to Alexa Price 3 specific services and re-implemented our own things. For example, we've built our very own factoid skill for answering factoid questions. We built our own classifiers for topic and for dialog ask classification. And this is a lot of things that we've built in the last summer. Now, let me take a small pause. And again, Mikhail and Sergey, please admit people into the waiting room. Thank you very much. Okay, so the big question is why we're building all of that. This is the key question. Surely, if you're concerned with reaching your existing customers with a simple experience and having simple skills that run in Amazon Alexa or Google Assistant, that might be sufficient for your needs. And if you want to have a complex goal-oriented skills, then you have a rich set of choices between Amazon Lex and Google Dialogflow and Brassen and IBM Watson and many, many other things. But let's think about this. Everyone's building skills for Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant and building their own small chatbot that they deploy on their websites, skills to Alexa and Google Assistant, and on the mobile phones. The question that is arising lately is there room for a third category of conversational AI systems on the right? Something that would be bigger than simple skills for existing AI assistants. Of course, we've pondered this question for years as well. The bar is pretty high to create a new category of conversational AI systems. Those systems are going to have to be better at doing some key tasks. They are going to be far better at doing some really important things, better than skills inside Alexa and Google Assistant, and better than standalone chatbots. This is why we decided to work in this space. So what those conversational AI systems should do of that third category? They should be similar to self-driving cars like Tesla's Autopilot. They should understand user from multiple perspectives. They should be able to choose from multiple answer hypotheses, envision users' reactions, dynamically manage dialogue strategy through the use of different skills. And they should, in general, better understand user and help her to make her dreams happen. We believe that this is all required to participate in challenges like Amazon Alexa Prize and win one day in it. And we believe that this is what is important for the industry as well. So, for example, if you're writing skills by hand or you're building chatbots with modern simple systems, you'll figure out that managing all of the entities, intent, slots, scripts, it will become harder and harder as your number will grow up. Solving conflicts will become at some point practically impossible. From another side, if you think as a business, you know that you have so many axes on which you interact with your customer that you practically have to have complexity hidden behind a single brand identity. So you have to manage your dialogue at the complexity level comparable to complexity of the social bots that participate in Amazon Alexa Prize. So it's clear that a different approach is needed. And this approach should drive coordination of like singular bots built by different departments within the organization. It has to be controllable and predictable. It has to be accessible. There are different channels that users want to interact with your bot, with your assistant. It has to work across different devices, and it should understand human speech, but it also should provide a graphical user interface. It should be able to solve problems on its own, but it should be also able to hand over to a professional when needed. It should be able to work on behalf of the user and understand what the user wants, obviously, and understand which entities are mentioned, and users' empathy, users' emotions. It should be able to solve particular problems like this goal-oriented skills, but it should also support a generality chat, which is a challenge in its own. And it also needs an entire infrastructure of working with organizational knowledge base. And it should also support building those skills and supporting multiple skills that form the brain of your AI assistant. And if you look at Alexa today, we know that even it can achieve just merely top of that iceberg, tip of it, A lot of different things have yet to be built. We know that we can't solve those problems at DeepPavlov on our own, so we look at this as a perspective of a supply chain. We know that to succeed, we need lots of kinds of partners, OEMs, corporations, independent hardware vendors, software vendors, and distributors and integrators. And if you look back, thanks to DeepPavlov library and our agent and Dream Social Bot that we built for Alexa Prize 3, we've made quite a progress just in the year 2019 alone. And speaking of the last year, we've added more partnerships. We further developed our own goal-oriented and chit-chat frameworks and added support for working with knowledge graphs and added new annotators. Now, all of this is a high-level vision. It's what we believe is needed to make those multi-skill AI assistant platform a reality. But if you think that it's too complex, mind you, it's not. We created a very simple repository called DP, which is available at the link on the top. It has a minimal number of components needed to build your multi-skill AI assistant today. Thanks to it, you can grab the annotators you need from DeepPavlov library, build your own skills with our GoBot and Dialogflow framework, and use these components in your own multi-skill AI system. And because you're building everything as an open source, you can easily add components built on top of the other framework, be it Rasa or be it Hugging Face and other things. Because our main and first goal is to help you to build those multi-skill AI systems. Now I would like to show you a small demo of a multi-skill AI assistant that we've jump-started last year thanks to a short conversation with Duncan Jones, who was the creator behind the sci-fi classic called The Moon. Now I'm happy to announce DP. DP is our moon-based AI system demo. DP was inspired by Gertie from the original Moon movie as shown on the screen. In this movie, the events of the 22nd century are depicted. So energy sources of the Earth's planet have depleted. In order to provide power to the suffering planet, a company called Lunar Industries Limited has created a moon base on the far side of the moon called Saranj. Saranj, translated from South Korean, is called love. And the base was built to harvest helium-3, then packed into canisters and send it back through a massive railgun back to Earth to power its thermonuclear power stations. There is a crew of one person on the base, and it is accompanied by a moon-based AI assistant called Gertie that you can see on the screen. And Gertie is a fascinating creature itself. Well, it's very futuristic. We thought that we could try to re-implement simple version of it with our existing technology today. Because in general, while I don't want to talk about the hardware side, software side aside, it's a combination of goal-oriented and chit-chat skills. So the goal-oriented skills in the movie helped Sam to know the status of harvesters that collect helium-3 on the surface of the moon. Prepare a rover for a trip, know its status, and do other things. While chit-chat skill allowed Sam and Gertie to have a casual conversation and support Sam in his mission, because he stays at the base for 3 long years. For demo purposes, we decided to use the same architecture used for our social bots for Alexa Prize 3 and Alexa Prize 4, but we picked just a small number of components. We've added ASR TTS from NVIDIA NeMo library, and we built a couple custom skills. One is goal-oriented, focused on harvesters status and rover status, and the second one is chit-chat skill built using AIML, which stands for AI Markup Language. We also added a motion classifier to the mix, which analyzes emotional response of the bot and then provides it as a happy face to the to our DP bot. Now, how it's all built. So in the beginning, you need to use a typical Docker configuration. You have to outline all the components you need: annotators, skills, ASR and TTS, role-based response selector, skill selector, and then agent and its dependencies, the Mongo database itself. Now, the next thing is a bit more sophisticated. So you have to grab this architecture and implement it in the form of a DeepPavlov agents pipeline configuration. It obviously is based on top of what you defined as the Docker compose, and components that you add to it can be added as either Python code or HTTP web services or microservices, as you like. So this means that you can add any kind of components you want. You're not limited to Python-based components, so you can build anything you want and plug it into your architecture. Now, to give a high-level perspective of the skills, if you want to build a goal-oriented skill, you can use our GoBot framework. And in our case, we decided to embrace our colleagues from Russia and use their configuration files to define the concept behind the bot. So goal-oriented bot is a bot that is able to solve particular goals of the user. So if user wants to know the status of the harvesters, the goal of the user is obviously to know the status of the harvesters. And for that, we've written down the intent of status request, and then we've written down examples for this intent. Then we wanted to prepare a system with the responses, and we decided upon some of these responses, written them down in this form. Finally, we've written down stories that outline how the system should respond to a particular intent. And then we provided all of that to our GoBot framework and build a skill. Now, GoBot itself is just a typical machine learning model, so we had to build a simple wrapper that hides all the complexity of the GoBot framework and allows you to interact with it with just these 2 lines of code. So you use this wrapper to obtain an utterance response from the user, for the user based on the user response from GoBot framework. And then we use natural language generation to provide a human readable response. And then we provide both the response and the confidence back to the user. Now, a small idea that is important to highlight here. Here we use the confidence of GoBot framework itself. But in a real multi-skill AI system that has more than 2 skills, you will probably need to have a normalized set of confidence levels for all skills. And this way, you will be able to level the playing field between all the different skills you have in the system and make the life of one who is responsible for response selector much, much easier. But for the purposes of this simple demo, we decided to grab the confidence itself. Now, the chit-chat skill we built is written in AI markup language. Obviously, a really well-working chit-chat skill is a holy grail. So here we didn't want to bring all the complexities of social bot from Alexa Price, and instead we decided to bring a very simple thing that you can toy with today and integrate it into your multi-skill AI system. In this case, it has a system profile, greeting scenario, and topics, and it basically looks for patterns and picks random predefined response from the configuration files like the one you can see in the screen. So once you put all those components together, so you've written Docker Compose, you've written down your DeepPavlov agents pipeline configuration, you've written down your skills and Docker files for them, and provided relevant, how to put it, endpoints that DeepPavlov agent would connect to your components, you can build a whole thing with Docker Compose upbuild. and then you can interact with the system. So now I will try to show you one of such demos here. I will try to show you on demo.deepavlov.ai just to illustrate the idea. Here's what we're going to do. So now I'm going to show developer tools. Yep. I'm going to go to DB. Agree with the disclaimer and say hello. Now let me do it this way. So what happened? When we said hello to the system processed all the input and got two outputs from two different skills. One is a goal-oriented one and provide a hypothesis here. I don't understand you, which is perfectly fine. And then we got the second hypothesis from a chit-chat skill called program Y here, which provided us with a relevant response. Now we've got their confidences, and the skill with the highest confidence both chosen as the best response, and then we've got this response to the user. Now let's write down something like, where am I? And now I hope I'm still connected to the system. Fedya. Yes. Okay. So we might have some network connectivity problems with our data center. Anyway, so we've got a response, and it's also coming from our program Y with a chit-chat skill. Now let's ask something different. Let's say, what is the status of harvesters? And we got the response, and here's the response. It's now coming from our goal-oriented skill. It recognized the intent, and it provided the response. Let's do one more thing. What is the status of harvester string? Harvester 3 is inactive, which is coherent with what we've got in the previous response. So now we've got slot filling working, and we've got the response for it. Now, all of this stuff is actually available in our repository here. So we can go to github.com/deepmip/dp. And all of these components are available in this repository. You can clone it and have it on your own machine. And then you can pick the skills and annotators you want from assistant distributions. We have 3 here, and we have a few more in the baking. And then you can copy these 2 files. One of them you can copy the Docker Compose. You can copy to the root folder here. And the second file you can copy to agent folder. And then you can use Docker Compose upbuild, and you will be able to contact with the system on 4242 port. You can obtain more information about how to interact with the DeepPavlov agent from its documentation here. Okay, so let's go back to the talk, and I think I should probably wrap it up and provide time for GSoC talk. So this is just the beginning of what you can do with DeepPavlov technology. The repository can have our entity linking technology, which not only can extract entities from the text, but it can also recognize slot types. So for example, if you ask who created Moon movie, it would recognize top entities from it and identify their slot types. So you, with the use of entity linking, you can get slot filling generally for free. And this is actually also available in our repository. So there is annotator called entity linking, and it is available as part of our deep advanced distribution, so we can use it freely on your device today. We also have an end catcher, which allows you to create simpler intents. You generally need to have lots of different examples for your intent to have a high quality intent classification. But with intent catcher that was developed for Alexa Prize 2018, you can use regex to generate examples from your regular expressions. And so usually you can have like 10 examples, you can unwrap them into like 40 or 100 examples using regex. And by using that, you can quickly get a working intent classification. That really helped us last year and helps us tremendously this year as well. And actually, this is also available to you. It's also available in the same distribution. You can go to DP, and in annotators, we have intent catcher here, which you can also use today in your multi-skill AI assistant. Finally, at least but not last, we also are working to support raster 2.0 format. And we also will add this intent catcher thing right into the format. So we will extend the format by adding these regex examples into it. And this will really simplify your life with DeepPavlov is building goal-oriented skills using our technology. So all of that is our conversation via DeepPavlov stack. You can use all part of the stack to build a multi-skill AI systems. And in case you don't want to build multi-skill AI systems, but you want to build a more generic systems that require NLP technology, you also can use our DeepPavlov library for NLP components. And if you want to build sophisticated NLP pipelines, you can reuse our DeepPavlov agent for that purpose as well. You obviously all probably know all of these links already, but if you don't, here are all the links that you can use to clone and build your own multi-skill AI system today. And this wraps up my keynote talk from our 3-year celebration. Now, feel free to have like 5 minutes to ask your questions, and then we can move forward to GSoC conversation and talk by Oleg Sirikov, and then your questions about GSoC as well. I will now show the chat. So what is the use of dialog state? Does it store the context of previous responses? Excellent question, Ritesh. So let me go back a little bit. And when I say a little bit, I'm joking. Really far away. So dialog state is like a shared memory of everything that is happening in interaction between user and chat and AI assistant, or a simpler social bot. It stores entire dialog, and it stores all the data gathered by all the annotators. And it also contains hypotheses at each conversation step. And it also obviously contains the response that was chosen at each conversation step. Other questions? Do we have any other questions? Oh, should we wrap up this thing and move forward to GSoC?
Just a quick question.
Sure.
How are these data dependencies handled inside of DeepPavlov agent? Like, how's it handled that certain responses require certain annotations? How's this resolved?
Also a good question. So response selector and skill selector and many of the components we write, for example, ourselves are obviously written in Python, and we cannot be guaranteed that a certain data is available in the dialog state. So obviously we have to write down try catch blocks to make sure that the system is working in case some data has not been gathered. And while there is a schema for the way how you can access this data, the availability of the data is not guaranteed at any step. Does it make sense to you?
Yes, I see. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so we saw in the demo that there were multiple skills being triggered. There were confidence scores being calculated from all the responses among all the skills. And then going to be a bottleneck while in production having calculated across, say, more than 10 skills. Good question as well. I'm not sure if Dil is with us. No, I don't think that Dil is with us. Yura or Denise, maybe one of you could provide a response to this question.
Hi. So yeah, I think that the role of the skill selector is to pre-filter available skills that we have in our social bot or in our system. So it's not necessary to turn on all skills that are available in the system. And then we use a response selector to choose the final answer. So it's partially answers your question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just to clarify, Euro was ahead of our team for Exercise 3, so he is like one of the biggest brains behind the social bot of last year. Okay, if you have any more questions, feel free to write them down in the chat. And let's move on to the second talk, which will be provided by Sirikov, who is championing Google Summer of Code this year. I'm stopping my sharing. Wow, and we have quite a team today. Quite a number of people today. It's a big pleasure to see you here. Dick, feel free to share your screen.
Thank you, Daniel. So now I'm going to give a rather short talk on what's going on, what is the GSoC, and what is the reason of all this like great happening that brought most of our guests into our chat in the last like couple of weeks or months. So this year DeepPavlov participates for the first time in the Google Summer of Code program, and me with the help of Daniel, Michael, Daria, I'm like administrating the whole DeepPavlov's journey at the GSoC. And well, GSoC is actually a great is really great opportunity for all of us to make our open source conversational AI even greater than it is. So, but first of all, what is the Google Summer of Code? I probably should clarify a bit what does it all mean. So Google Summer of Code is an online program which is invented by Google rather a long time ago, which is designed to encourage students to participate in open source software development. And as you probably already know from Daniel's talk or from somewhere else, DeepPavlov builds open source conversational AI. And well, this whole participation in the program happens under the guidance of the mentor from the open source community, from open source teams. And well, for me, I also participated the Google Summer of Code probably 3 years ago. And for me, this was my ticket into the NLP community. Before this, I was working like on backend development, and I was dreaming of switching into the NLP, and I participated in Google Summer of Code. And well, since this time, I joined the NLP project for the first time in my life during the Google Summer of Code. And since this time, I was doing mostly only NLP during the rest bunch of projects. So, but these words are like saying lots of great stuff and are probably saying are probably still a bit unclear. So let me clarify a bit. Google Summer of Code and Google Summer of Code at DeepPavlov happens to, well, actually it happens to reach a couple of really important goals for all of us. First, it is to introduce students to the open source software community and to the open source software development. We all are building here open source stuff, and open source software is rather is really like is probably the greatest way to communicate with other minds, with other like teams from all around the world, because since the very beginning open source development is really distributed. It is based on the it is based on, well, purely online. It is often based on purely online communication, and is still allowing people, allowing humanity to build great tools, like for example DeepPavlov, or I know Jenkins are open source, are great open source tools familiar, for example, for everyone who uses GitHub for quite a long time. And well, for us at DeepPavlov, another goal is really important. We really are happy to have this opportunity to get acquainted with brilliant minds from nearly all around the world. I mean, during the last couple of weeks, I had lots of great conversations that filled me with new ideas, that showed me that among the world there are lots of great engineers and experts in, and like volunteers in building open source community and in building open source conversational stuff. And this ability to communicate with, well, with some of you probably made me like happy as I really am. I mean, I'm often happy, but this is another type of happiness that happens when you like find those who think similarly to you. Finally, we see the ability to build, with the help of our probable students, to build the conversational NLP that will be even better and even more suitable to even more state of the art as it was before. I mean, our goals for this Summer of Code are really ambitious. We plan to really improve like lots of projects that we're working on, and well, I hope this will help you, and this will help you to feel like what open source development really is. And for me, another funny thing is, like, I started with saying that open source is often like held purely offline, and for example, me and Daniel, we're working for nearly a year and a half together, and we probably are not that and we probably are not in that different parts of the world, but I never saw Daniel in person, and still he's a really brilliant guy who helps us to to build our great products. So I mean, the whole program happens in an online manner, and this is a great way to communicate with developers. So to give you a bit more concrete intuition of what this is about, I should outline what is the timeline of the Google Summer of Code. First, like me, our organization and lots of great other open source organizations were admitted to participate in this program. We were composing our participation proposals, and we are happy to be chosen to participate in this program. And since Google chosen the set of open source organizations, among which is our organization, probably the most active part of the Google Summer of Code began. So the list of chosen organizations has been released, and now, and I think a couple of weeks in the future, students from all around the world could choose some open source organizations that they want to contribute. And well, the goal of students for these days is to build a so-called project proposal, which describes on what you could do during this summer working with this organization, with mentor from this organization. And well, then will happen the quite, I think, enormously hard processes of picking some proposals among lots of great proposals, and then we'll have a couple of weeks to bound our community. And well, with the beginning of the summer, nearly the same day the summer begins, the coding phase of the Google Summer of Code will begin. And since the beginning, during nearly all the summer, students with mentors from different open source organizations will be working on building their projects. And this is how it is distributed across the country of this year. So the first two phases are already happened. Organizations are chosen, and students, and probably you, are working on their proposals. And well, we just released our pre-proposals review procedure at DeepPavlov. So yeah, we have a Google form in the very last slide. There are a couple of links. There is a couple of links, so you can see where to submit your pre-proposal. And well, while students working on their proposals, they are having lots of great conversations. They are working on coding challenges, etc. And this process will last until April 13th. And since this time, next phases will begin. So the probably most hot phase of the whole program happens just right now. And well, we have the first hard deadline to approach. It will be in a bit smaller than a month in future. Well, April 13th is the first hard deadline of the program. And this is how things are going. But another important thing to mention is that during the summer, since students begin to work on their projects, since you began to work on your great idea, you have to pass 2 evaluations. Each one happens after a month after the previous. So the evaluation is a short process when you describe how your month how was your month at this organization, and the organization kind of describes how was the experience of working together. And usually things are happening okay, but it is just important to remind you to just be in touch with your mentors, to just have a positive experience of working together, so that evaluations will proceed successfully. And well, what's going with DeepPavlov at Google Summer of Code this year? We have a great team of mentors who are who went from 2 core wings of our DeepPavlov team. First of all, we have our team core, our library and DeepPavlov agent core developers leading mentoring some of the ideas. Among them, for example, is the chief core library and agent developers. And another group of mentors is from our research lab, who are building SOTA of the dialogue NLP, and for example, leading us to the Alexa Prize. And well, we have a really great team of these 2 sets of specialists. All of them are really great guys. And we have 4 contribution areas that we think that are really promising. So we have 4 contribution areas: NLP, fundamentals, GUIs and tools, and demos contribution areas. NLP area is about like, well, NLP area is more about like doing NLP in general. So you can build some models, etc. But we also have a library and the agent, which are products that we would love to enhance together with the community. And this is the core idea of the fundamental ideas. And we have, like, for these great products, for these great stuff that we already built, we are building now lots of GUIs, tools, etc. to like just ease the process of working with this stuff. And finally, all of these great bunch of products should be demonstrated should be demonstrated somehow. So we constantly are working on demos, and these are the areas that we believe are the most and we probably thought that they were the most important for us. And you, of course, you can come up with your idea, and we will help you to build it into the Google Summer of Code proposal. Feel free to write an issue describing describing what you are planning to do. And like right now, we have GitHub issues for each idea that we propose it as a source of like proposal ideas. And here happens in the GitHub issues happens all the discussion dedicated to the ideas and technicalities. And well, here we have also coding challenges that help our guests to better learn what the idea is, what the DeepPavlov is, and to get in touch with mentors and to try to probably do something similar to the whole idea point. And we also have a Telegram chat where we have a live discussion, and as often, like as usual, here happens the general community discussion, and also some of some of guys are sharing their newly come GSoC ideas. And just today we have the first deadline of our internal weekly review, pre-proposals review. It will happen every Thursday. We will review proposals every Friday. So you just have to submit your proposal each Thursday to have some feedback from our team on your like GSoC idea. And well, another important thing that I think worth mentioning is we really are experienced with working with students because we are like hosted in some laboratory of the great university. And if you feel like you would love to be the intern of our laboratory, you probably also could find interesting our internship page, where you can find ideas of other internships and some information on how this happens and who are interns in our lab right now. So probably it worth mentioning too. Okay, so well, actually this was my last slide, and here are some useful links. You probably will find them useful. So to just help to just like ease the access to all of this, I have this short link that probably works. Well, I checked it. It worked when I checked, which should lead you to these slides, so you can like pick the links and probably the stuff that you found interesting. And right now, I'm just happy to answer any questions that you probably have or like discuss something. So this is all from me for now, and feel free to like ask something vocally or in the chat. And for some reason, I can't see the chat, but that's temporarily.
Oleg, people ask you to enter a link in the chat box so that it will be available to everyone here.
Yeah, sure. So just a couple of seconds. I just found the chat. So here's the link. I just shared it in the chat. Yeah, sure thing. Well, and for now I see the short link and the long link. So if anyone has questions, I am happy to answer. If no one has questions, I probably am like happy to stop sharing my screen. And well, anyways, you probably will use these links that I shared to reach me or anyone of our team and discuss your ideas. Feel free to do this anytime you find appropriate. And we are always happy to work your idea into some GSoC proposal or something like this. I see something in the chat. Okay, so if you submit the proposal on the 28th of March, well,
this is not the day, 1 day before official submission. No. Look, the final submission is April 13th, not March 28th.
Yeah, I suppose that this question is related to our pre-proposals review procedure. And yes, of course, we will be happy to review your pre-proposals. Well, any date which is before the deadline. Sure thing, you can submit them. Let me show the calendar, which are the last Thursday before April 13th.
Yeah, let me highlight something here, which I believe is really valuable here. NLP, I mean, there are more than 200 organizations in Google and Summer of Code who are participating this year. And we are focused on natural language processing and multi-skill AI systems. So many of you asked lots of questions that in the NLP field, so I feel really, really happy that you decided to pick us as one of your target organizations for Google Summer of Code this year. But just to highlight it, it's not sufficient just to be interested in the space. It is important to also have at least some experience in it and some knowledge about it. And these pre-proposals, which were, by the way, suggested by one of the active members of this community, are a very simple purpose. They have a very simple purpose. They allow you to better understand what you want to achieve during the Google Summer of Code and get our feedback and prepare a successful proposal. If at some point during the preparation of your pre-proposal you realize that you probably don't have the capacity or bandwidth to work throughout the entire Google Summer of Code, it's also a result, and it means that you'll still have time to apply for any other organization. It's not like we don't want to have any of you. We obviously want, and we just want to be sure that your applications will be successful and your experience with Google Summer of Code with us will be mutually beneficial for all of us. So we've created a very simple form for pre-proposals. And in general, we want a Google Doc where you outline what you want to do, your proposal in general. And you can just share it with us. And every Friday, we will review them and share our feedback with you, hopefully by end of the same Friday. Any other questions? Where can we submit the proposals? Where can we submit? Oleg?
Yeah, sure thing. I'll just send the link also here in the chat. And well, we have an entry point, the deeppavlov.ai/GSoC 2021, and here we have like the news page, which is I just
don't. Yeah, so we have this guide, right?
Yeah, so we have GSoC news posted in the GSoC page, available at the GSoC page. Let me just check whether it is available also. Yep, it is available at both of our GSoC pages. And here you have you probably will see this news, this like announcement of our Google Forms of our Google form for your proposals. So here is the link. Thank you.
Yeah, great. So that's the form. Open it. Show it to the people.
Yeah, sure thing. Do you still see my screen? By the way?
Yes, we can see it.
Oh. Okay, so we have here like 1, 2, 3, 4 fields.
Yeah,
And, well, we
have to
have
fill just 3
3
of them.
fields that are required to submit. So basically, we just want to see some Google link. It will be really nice if you will enable the commenter access, just for us to propose some comments. So it is just as simple as it could be.
Yeah, the trick is what you will put in the link to Google Doc.
Yeah.
Okay, can you brief about the kinds of APIs that we are looking to integrate into DP scenarios, DeepPavlov scenarios? The kinds of APIs. By the way, not reactor, refactor. So first question, what kind of APIs we are looking for to integrate into DeepPavlov scenarios? Right. Oleg, would you mind to open Google Summer of Code main page?
Yeah, sure thing. Whoa. Okay, I will just type it.
Yeah. Scroll a little bit down. Yep. Stop. Demos. No. Go to demos. Go to demos. It should be in demos, I think. So you're talking about this task, right? Kushal. I think that's it. Right. Can we go to the task page if you don't mind, Oleg?
Yeah, sure.
Wow. Oh my God. I mean, go to our repository. I didn't think they've been looking for ideas for your bathroom, but passion for design is great. So yeah, here is a task. It's this one. Yeah. So in general, while we want the title dashboard. So Oleg, feel free to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah. Well,
and what I just wanted to do is to illustrate you how you can learn more about any of the things that we highlighted on our page. Go ahead, Oleg.
Okay, I probably had something with sound, so I missed your last. Well, okay, I will just answer the question. Well, by integrating popular APIs into our scenarios, we actually are looking. Well, we have some goal-oriented bots, for example, built into the shipped in the examples pages. But these bots, well, a typical goal-oriented bot relies on to some API, for example, like weather API or pizza API. These APIs that Daniel just. Oh, okay. These APIs that are probably, well, someone can find them boring probably, but actually this is the core idea of all the goal-oriented systems, probably, because we are living in the world where everything has an API. I mean, I have this coffee machine behind me, and even this coffee machine has an API. So
holy cow, you have a smart coffee machine.
Yep. And well, it is probably smarter than me. Well, and it is extremely important to be able to easily integrate with these APIs, because they are built similarly. We are building them for like, I know, 20, 30 years. And there is an open API standardization that allows people to like unify the way they are building their APIs. And it probably always relies onto some Swagger configuration file, which describes just, okay, I am an API, I have these methods, and you have to provide these parameters, they are of these types. And nearly everything has an open API specified API behind it. I suppose that even like, I know, even such a big tools like, I know, Microsoft Azure Machine Learning Laboratory or something like this, well, I probably remember the days then these were organized like then where I was able to interact with them via an open API scheme. And what APIs are those that we are willing to integrate are probably just the popular ones that could probably be the most easily understood by the community. So this probably is something about weather or like probably popular markets or stores, or probably popular like just websites or something like this that provides an API to just illustrate that we have the ability to easily integrate a popular thing into our library. Okay, I have another question in the chat probably.
So the question is, what do we mean by refactoring of multitask BERT? Let me see. So we have at least one of the members of our team who participated in creation of original tasks. So the idea is the following. And we actually faced it in our experience with building multi-skill AI systems and social bots for the enterprise. So imagine you have an AI assistant that has lots of different components, and these components, machine learning driven components, they use BERT. And usually when you use a typical BERT, you usually use like 4 gigs of RAM on your GPU, and when you want to have like several or maybe several dozens of annotators that each uses BERT, you simply can run out of GPUs available for your system. This is what, for example, we experience what we suffer from in our social bot for Enterprise 4. So the idea is, what if you could use just one BERT classifier to solve multiple tasks, multiple classification tasks, for example. For that purpose, last year we built 2 different implementations of this solution, of the system. So the first implementation is multitask BERT that was built into our library, but it required us to have a specific data set that would have to be adapted to this multitask BERT. The second implementation was to use existing different data sets standalone from each other and train them by different heads in the multitask BERT. Both of implementations are important, both of implementations available, but if you want to use one BERT with multiple heads to classify things in different classification models, you can have problems with quality and accuracy and F-score and so on of those classifiers. So what we would love to see as a contribution is refactoring or maybe re-implementation of a multitask BERT that would allow us to use ideally one BERT classifier to solve multiple classification tasks with minimal to no loss of quality. So that's the task. And Oleg, if you don't mind, can you go back to issues and show them? Yeah, this one. So, and go back again, please. Because, yeah, here you can see that we decided to write down the coding challenge in PAL BERT and others, and several other different variations of implementations. We want one of those things to be implemented and contributed to our library, and you will be provided with some of the data sets to check the quality of your implementation. So that's going to be a big challenge, big contribution during the Google Summer of Code. And for the coding challenge, you have to implement one of the things. Okay. Yes. Okay. So the
I have an important question. Can you see the chat opened in my screen?
No, nobody can see it.
Thank you.
No worries. So, okay, can you discuss a little bit about the MLM mechanism implementation part in DeepPavlov? So I don't know who is the best position to answer this question. Oleg, would you mind to open the story about MLM mechanism?
Sure thing. Well, I just haven't understand what you have just said.
Yeah. That's around the 14 tasks. The task number 14.
Oh, no. I mean, okay.
I don't know. Maybe I misunderstood what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I suppose this was just the lag of the
Masked
video.
Yeah, so this is masked language models. By the way, we didn't really write down who is the owner of this thing. I think we missed that.
Yep. Well, I probably won't edit the issue right now, but if I remember correctly, I just participated in discussions.
Yes, you definitely did. Let me take a look who was the owner behind this one. Yura, I think it was you, Yura Kuratov. Are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Would you mind to share your thoughts about this task, please?
As you know, BERT model was trained on masked language modeling task, and this task is also useful not only during pre-training, but it also can be used for such cases like data augmentation, for example. So you can replace one word with another one by using this model. But unfortunately, we do not support such kind of task in DeepPavlov library, and so the purpose of this coding challenge is to fill this gap and to add, first of all, BERT model for masked language model, but I think we need all models that are available in Hugging Face library, which were trained for masked language modeling task, to be in that way that we can use them in DeepPavlov. So that basically describes this task.
Yuri, thank you very much. Let me take a look. Do you have any other questions? So is it like you want to separate masked language model part for achieving that goal?
I don't quite understand what does it mean, separate masked language model part.
Nikhil, would you mind to elaborate more? Nikhil? I mean, like you said, it's not there. Still doesn't help, right?
Yeah, we don't have such kind of models in DeepPavlov, and we want to have them because we know that they are very useful.
Yeah. Is it what you've been expecting to hear? Where we are supposed to edit? To DeepPavlov library, obviously. What do you mean? What do you mean? You are supposed to edit to the DeepPavlov library. Does it make sense? It mentions how to edit as a component. Oleg, by the way, yeah, go to contrib, I think. Oh, no. Can you go back to the website, to the main website?
Sure. You mean our just DeepPavlov.ai website or
yes, to DeepPavlov.ai and open, please, the community area.
Here it is.
And there you can have contributors. Contributors, right? So we have the contribution guide, which explains how to do things. So please share the link with the chat. And let me continue looking at the answers and try to answer the questions. So we discussed masked language models, great. Distilled BERT, well, sometimes we do use them, yeah. But as I said, they're still quite expensive. Can you talk a little in details about the relation extraction task? There seems to be various implementations. What exactly is being looked at for the Google Summer of Code proposal? I'm not sure we have Dmitry Evseev with us today. I don't know who can comment on this in deeper. But I think...
Well, I probably am a little familiar with the task, but I just lost the question.
Can you talk a little in detail about the relation extraction task? There seems to be various implementations. What example is being looked at for the Google Summer of Code proposal?
Sure thing. Well, here is the task.
I think this is one of the most well-discussed, deeply discussed tasks in our list of Google Summer of Code ideas.
Yeah, well, we have. If I remember correctly, we haven't shipped yet.
No, we don't have such components. We want to have one, but we don't have one yet.
Extraction component. Yeah, this is like with masked language modeling. This is just in general, to have a relation extraction is extremely useful. So we just need it to be implemented in our library. And what is important is that since we are a framework, it should be like bound onto other components, and this will probably be even more exciting part of work. Well, even more probably than just picking the right model for the whole task, because after all, different models have similar interfaces. We should be bound into the framework.
Look, I think we don't have Dmitry Safe on board right now with us, but he is very responsive in the task page itself. So feel free to ask more questions there. And I think this is already a rather rich conversation we have here. Okay, so another question is, how many students work in one project? So our understanding is that each student works on their own project, but if I'm wrong, Oleg, please correct me.
Yeah, I actually just even answered in the chat, but we don't actually expect lots of like slots for the GSoC program, as probably like organizations that as large as organizations do. So I doubt that there will be more than one student working on a single project. We tried to distill our ideas so that each project is suitable for a single developer, and of course it is. In principle, it is possible to work together on some idea, but I'm not sure. I wouldn't be sure that this will be the case of this summer. So probably I just agreed with Daniel.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, Daniel. Hi, Oleg. Is it okay if I talk? I think I wasn't able to convey the question through chat.
Well, I think you didn't list down well enough, but I'm not sure that there was a question from you. You talked about the relation extraction, but we tried to respond to you as much as we could to the best of our knowledge. But go ahead, ask your question.
Okay, no. So in the chats, I think there were a couple of papers that were mentioned. So my question is, for the GSoC proposal, are you looking at some of these students coming up with ideas for relation extraction, or is it some implementation that we are required to do of these methods that have been proposed?
Yes, I understand you. As I said before, Dmitry is not with us, but so I can't look to his head and figure out what exactly he is looking for.
Okay.
But I can imagine that in the end, we need a great solution for relationship extraction. So it's not just going to, so if you think that some of the existing approaches written down in some great paper published recently is the right thing, you can go with it. If you feel brave enough and smart enough to build your own relationship extraction, that could also work. But the bar is really high, because we want this component to be shipped as part of the library. I mean, in the end, what we want for all of you is, for those who will be able to join us, is to have a meaningful impact. Like, ideal result is, at the end, by the end of your participation in Google Summer of Code as part of our organization, you would have some contribution to the open source. The contribution should be part of library. So we have like couple ways to look at it. It can be just like a small contribution which is not supported by our team, but is like shipped as a contribution. Can also be seen as a demo maybe. But ideal thing is a high quality component that can be added to the library. Obviously, that would depend on lots of different things. So that will ultimately depend on you and how you will go through the process and what will be possible to be done over the time period of Google Summer of Code.
Okay, thank you, Daniel.
Sure, Srikant, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Right. Thank you very much. Okay, so other questions. How many students will we select for GSoC? Alek?
Well, I just answered this question. I mean, well, we don't know yet, but we don't expect many slots paid by Google, but we probably will take a look. Well, you probably should keep in mind that we also have internships if you are extremely interested in just our lab and not the Summer of Code. But I mean, well, my bet is like nearly 4 students, and I just picked it from like nowhere, so I'm not actually really sure in this number, but that's probably of the correct order. Well, anyways, well, I probably had just answered. And
you have another question. Are GPT models of any use for
this
Google
is a great
Buzz?
question.
Yeah, this is a great question. Go ahead.
Answer onto this question. And well, GPT models are, well, you probably saw that they are kind of funny. I mean, they produce grammatically plausible texts, but they are a bit, well, they often are like probably
saying stupid stuff.
Funny is the best word I can imagine. But what is useful from the GPT models, and I know some researchers that use them in this way, is like you can use them to augment your data. You can probably generate. I suppose that with GPT-3 especially, you could use them to generate kind of similar data sets to the ones you have, and this is probably a good idea for the goal-oriented dialogue. So you just have to find this so-called, how do they call it, precursor, or how do they call it, this like salt that you give to the GPT model to generate the continuation. And this is how I probably would use GPT for goal-oriented systems.
Okay. So Balint has a few questions about the graphical user interface task. Hi, and welcome to us. I think I've seen, we had some conversation on our GitHub a couple of days ago. You brought some great schemes and so on. Looking forward to your questions. Go ahead. Shoot.
So, well, first of all, I'm still I'm not quite sure like what's the overall goal here. Like, is this task focused on the GoBot framework or the DP agent as a whole, like all the different components of it?
Good question. So, Alek, if you don't mind, please open the GUI thing, graphical user interface for GoBot and so on. Yeah, the task number 8. Yeah, this one. So this is a great question. We have like a couple of ways to look at it. At the very minimum, we obviously would love to have some graphical user interface to enable people to build goal-oriented skills for DP. And that is already a challenge on itself. So that could be a task. Another option is obviously to move a little bit ahead, because to configure goal-oriented skill with GoBot, you actually need to build a front end on top of 3 configuration files, and I think Docker Compose, and more or less something like that. And also on top of the tutorial that Oleg written a few months ago around the GoBot. So that's like a minimum thing of the task. But if you would be able to move forward and make that thing during the course of your work here, we would really happy to scale this thing up and make a broader system available as well. So like when you have DP as a multi-SKU assistant, and then have UIs that would allow people to configure settings for different parts of DP and so on. But in the beginning, we really want to have GUI just for GoBot skills. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, I understand. And about the coding challenge.
Yes. Go ahead.
So.
All sport.
Well, I didn't really understand that.
Old sport is an old phrase from English from United States.
Yes, I got. But the coding challenge. I mean.
No, I'm sorry. Yes. So you don't understand what we want from the coding challenge. So we didn't know who would come to this task. So we thought that for the very simple coding challenge, it could make sense to just find something existing one and try to adapt it to GoBot on intent level and maybe at least on intent level. So that's the idea. But if you feel that you're brave to work on something bigger, that's fine as well. But I mean, coding challenge is something very short. You have just a couple weeks before the end of the time. I mean, before you have to write down your application and submit it to Google. So I think this should be a very small thing.
So by
I have an idea that I was exploring that is probably related to this challenge. I mean, goal-oriented bot is relying on to nearly the tree-like structure, which actually like a finite state machine structure, which is kind of a tree where edges are user intents and nodes are system responses, and we just have to write this tree or a graph if you have multiple edges allowed.
You're talking about the graph, right?
You're
talking about the graph, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about Rasa 2.0 format, which is kinda convertible into the graph and backwards. And right now you have to just write your Rasa 2.0 config stories.emo or stories.md so that you describe this graph in form of just all the plausible paths from the beginning of the story till the end of the story, and that's kind of boring to do. Like you have to just describe all the conversation graph by typing something with the keyboard. And what I was thinking about is building what I was thinking about when I was thinking about how to ease my life. I was exploring whether we can automate this graph, simplify this graph, for example, composition process. So I probably looked into the Sigma.js library, which is probably easily turnable into anything related to graphs, which provides some abstractions allowing you to interact with graphs in some graphical way. So you probably won't be needed to type that many things, but well, that's just my 2 fences.
Well, I'm afraid that we may be confused Balint instead of easing his situation. I think we probably confused you more.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was thinking in terms of graphs as well, because I mean, that's
you guys are talking about different kinds of graphs. Trust me. I think you're talking about the visual graphs, right?
Yes.
Yes, Oleg is talking about very different kind of graph. He's talking about a graph where you have to. Well, actually, maybe these 2 ideas could be joined as well. If you can do that, if you can do the following, Oleg can provide you with a graph format that we've invented while working with one of our customers. And if you could build UI on top of that graph and I mean, look, you have 2 weeks. You have 2 weeks. It's not a lot of time to do things. That's what my concern is. But if that could be possible, you could grab that format, visualize the graph, and ideally, yes, I know what you need to do. So you have the format, you have the graph, and you visualize that graph, and then add a button to train the model. For existing graph that you will be provided with, you don't have to add any edit or adding functionality to the system. You just visualize the graph from the file, and you have a button to train the model and to have the working thing. That, I think, would be a perfect coding challenge, because it would require you to work with data, visualize it, and then have a complete title when you can train the thing. What do you think?
Yes, it sounds cool. Yes.
Go. Yeah.
I think it's doable. Yes. I'll look into it if Oleg sends me the file
Sure.
mentioned.
There's one more thing that I think is important to mention. So, as we said before, it's not important to be in Moscow or in Russia at all to participate in this coding in the Google Summer of Code in general. But if you are somewhere around, or if you plan to join our university and so on, you can obviously visit our lab on premises. I mean, it's not like we have lots of people there. We are mostly still working remote, but some of us are. Alec is a great example.
Yeah, I'm just right now in the lab.
Yes, so this is one thing. And the other thing is, if some of you, I mean, for those of you who will succeed in the Google Summer of Code this year, we would definitely be interested in continuing our conversation, our work together, and so on. So this could be seen as a way for you not only to excel your skills with writing open source software, but maybe to also contribute more to the platform and maybe join our lab as well. And different capacities, maybe internships, maybe some part-time job or something like that. So take that also into consideration. But it's important that if you want to work with us, you have to be in Russia. We can't provide currently competitive prices, competitive salaries for other countries unless they are at a similar level as Russia is.
Yeah, I'd love to visit you guys, but due to the virus and all, I haven't been able to enter Russia since September, so I'm studying remotely right now.
Okay.
But I'm hoping that by the summer it's gonna get better and I'll be in Moscow.
Excellent. We'll be really happy to have you visit us. Okay, I think we have at least one more question, this time coming from Tatagata. Tatagata, by the way, thank you so much for your help with our preparations for the announcement and for the idea with pre-proposals. I think it's really useful. So your question is, can we focus on more than one issue for our proposal? Alek?
Yeah, sure. I just answered it in the chat. I mean, as far as I am responsible, I think that multiple issues are okay. You're free to use them as just a source of your, like, how do they call it, inspiration. So you can just build your proposal on top of these issues as the sources of your ideas, and you are free to compose them into anything you feel like is a great proposal. So I probably answered. And we have another question in the chat. And
so as you said, we have, if you don't mind, as you said, we have 2 weeks. Are we required to have a solution proposal for the challenges by then, or some part of the solution, the code itself? What else is expected in the application? So this is a very good question. In general, Google doesn't require you to participate in coding challenges. They want you to have a great application submitted before April 13th. However, as I said before, NLP is a complex field. As you could notice from my keynote talk today, we are focused on the holy grail of NLP. So it's a certainly very, very challenging thing. Give a sec. And these coding challenges will allow you to taste what would it take for you to actually work on our tasks, on our ideas during the Google Summer of Code with us. So you don't have to complete these coding challenges. But if you will complete those coding challenges, it will be a great signal for both you and us that you will be capable of solving tasks and work on ideas for Google Summer of Code. And for us, it will mean that you are well prepared for this summer. So that sounds fair. Does it make any sense? Can we still work? Okay, another question from Anushka. Can we still work on the proposal and contributions even if you don't have any past contributions to the organization? Yes, of course you can. Of course you can. I mean, we are newbies for Google Summer of Code. We've never participated in this event before. And if we can participate in for the first time, you certainly can do the same as well. So yeah, sure. Don't be afraid. What we're looking for in all of your eyes is passion for natural language processing, for natural language understanding and language generation, for extracting information from text, from building chatbots and other things. That's what we're looking forward from you. Any other questions? Oh, does this issue implement goal-oriented SOTA approaches in DeepPavlov agent framework is implementing an efficient dialog state tracking system? Please explain a little bit. I have gone through GSoC papers. I have more talked about the dialog state tracking. Oh, this is a great, great question. I really wish we had Vasily on board with us today. Oleg, do you want to comment on this as the owner?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the question, I'm looking for the question mark.
The last one, the last message. So,
yeah, I see. I'm just reading it. Well, dialog state tracking is probably the core of the world goal-oriented dialogue. Well, at least for now. I mean, it usually takes lots of effort to correctly track the dialogue, to correctly understand intents and slots, and then the proper response is often guided by the business logic, which is not that complicated. So dialog state tracking is the crucial part of the goal-oriented system. So when we are building our goal-oriented systems, we are extremely needed to have, well, we need to have these SOTA dialog state tracking components implemented. And nowadays they are, well, as far as I can remember, they are based on some, well, on different, but all of them probably are transformer architectures. And well, probably just bringing this transformer architecture as a dialog state tracking mechanism is the core of the task. So the issue implement goal-oriented SOTA in our framework is mainly about dialog state tracking mechanism indeed. I suppose that's my answer. So okay, if I need to clarify something a bit, just let me know. I didn't want to leave the page. Okay, guys, any other questions?
Okay, I think it's 8:47 p.m. It's almost 2 hours now. Oh, okay, so that SOTA has been implemented. That's a good point coming from Tathagata. Natasha got it. I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, so please correct me. Codebase is not turned to production. Yes.
Well,
so
yeah.
What we want is to not just work on state-of-the-art things, but we want them to come to our users in a form of working code as part of a DeepPavlov library. So implementing SOTA is not sufficient enough. We want that to be productized.
Yeah, well, probably the proper implementation of SOTA is already is ready to be shipped, but SOTA code is just often far from production.
It's a great experiment code. It is great for achieving SOTA scores, but it's not something that you can easily put into production. Even, for example, for us, our GoBot framework is not the newest thing in the market. We would put it this way. And it was also, in a way, born from a similar story. And it's one thing to participate in state-of-the-art things, and the other thing is to build something that can actually and reliably work for your customers. So here, what we want to do is to bring some of the latest achievements in the space of goal-oriented frameworks and technology in general to our GoBot framework. I would put it this way. Oh my God. Now I just realized that my answer would be not that relevant. It's more or less relevant, but okay. So apart from the coding challenge, we are also required to suggest an idea project to work on in the proposal. You are not required to suggest. You can pick any of the existing ones, or you can propose your own one.
Yeah, and important probably to know, to just clearly know that we expect you to provide a weekly plan or nearly weekly plan, but some like to bind your idea somehow to the calendar, so we could estimate the number of effort and the number of time needed for you to succeed with the task. So to have an idea that you will be working on is just the necessary preliminary step to have this schedule. And I also see the question on the SOTA code base. Well, this is our SOTA code base, for example, like from the Dialog Glue, is somewhere in the Colab notebook. So I will ask for the implementer of our SOTA code base to share them with us, but probably the code is far from production quality. But I will look into bringing it into the chat, into the issue thread.
We are getting one more person coming from the news group. Nimish, feel free to ask your questions. I'll be happy to answer them while we're still here. You can do that via chat, or you can do it by voice. Yeah, that's one of the longest community calls we've experienced since the very beginning of this initiative, and it's been an absolute pleasure to answer to all of your questions, and we are very grateful for all of them. So Nimish, who just joined us, if you have any questions, feel free to write them down. Right now, we'll be happy to answer them now. Otherwise, we have a chat group in Telegram. You can talk to us through GitHub issues. And we are looking forward for your pre-proposals. We are looking forward for you to solve the coding challenges. And we are thrilled by an opportunity to work with you later this summer during Google Summer of Code. Thank you very much to everyone for having time and your attention to us today. And we wish you success in your pre-proposals and coding challenges. And we're looking forward for your applications in the mid-April. thank you very much to all. Thank you specifically to Oleg Sirikov, who is our Google Summer of Code champion. And thanks to Mikhail, who is our founder and who supports this story from our side, from the organizational side, and to everyone in our team who joined us today.